Hello, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com, and I'd like to talk to you today about what is the meaning of the Mandela Effect. I'd like to talk both about what it means to me personally, why I care so much about it, and what some of the responses I got were when I asked on social media what it means to you, just everybody else. So each of us has our own reason why this is significant and meaningful. But one thing that everybody can agree on is that the Mandela Effect is grabbing attention, and it's becoming more and more spoken about, more and more talked about. It's now a category on the Jeopardy TV show. It's also appeared in a New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle. So it's made the big time in terms of recognition. There will be people who try to dismiss it as something that's just some kind of mind trick. They sometimes mention it in the same breath as, for example, the Thatcher effect. But there are lots of reasons why many of us do not feel that we can sweep the Mandela effect under a rug and attribute it purely to mental processing and various tricks between our perceptual ability and the way our brain interprets things. So there seems to be something else going on. I'm not going to get into that too much. I just want to touch on it to disambiguate the two and point out there is a difference to a lot of us between the Mandela effect because of things like flip-flops, because of things where we'll see, for example, in my case, I actually saw the signage for the store Costco spelled without the T for a while. It was during a time I was pretty busy. I found it annoying, distracting, and something I was going to look into soon. As soon as I brought my full attention back to it, it was back to COSTCO. So it was just a short time for me personally. Other people have mentioned that. They've mentioned Chick-fil-A, lots of other company names, the kind of things that are just in the periphery of our vision. We see it change. So for us, it's convincing. Personal shifts are very convincing because sometimes I'll see something change in my own home, such as a timer dial on the drying machine, which I mentioned in my book Reality Shifts. Other personal shifts are extremely noteworthy. Philip K. Dick talked about them in his famous speech in France in the 1970s. So these things are not going away anytime soon because there are enough people who experience them and can't easily explain it away as some kind of a purely mental phenomenon. Instead, it looks like there is some sort of a change, possibly attributable to a variety of things. Consciousness seems to be at the root of most of them. So whether you look at the simulation hypothesis, you just keep going down, down, down to you keep asking, what's the cause of the simulation, who's doing the simulating, so on and so forth. You'll get to consciousness. This is pretty much the bottom layer of any of these theories, regardless what they may start off with. So obviously consciousness has something to do with it. That's been something we haven't really understood very well in all the years we've been looking at consciousness. But anyway, to answer the question, what does the Mandela effect mean to me? It means a lot because it's showing me that all of us together are having global effects where we're now noticing, for example, the kidneys can be better protected in our bodies than a lot of people remember they used to be. Whether that's a personal Mandela effect for you or not, you can recognize if it's possible for all of our bodies and physiology to change, like the heart moving from the left to more to the center. A lot of these things are very symmetrical. They are bringing about maybe an improvement in our physiology. This could be a secret behind the way that all of nature tends to move forward. Is it's capable of making a change within a generation to almost any kind of challenge to biology. The other thing I'd like to talk about that it means to me is basically I've had a lifelong fascination to the subject of reality, to consciousness. I've been looking into what is the nature of reality and how can I be part of helping everybody feel a little bit wiser, a little bit more knowing of who they are. And that's been a lifelong passion for me personally. So when I look at the Mandela effect and I look at what's involved with all of it, it ties in completely with what I see humanity's next step, evolutionary wise, is to recognize that literally our thoughts and our feelings can have a visceral effect on the physical world. Whichever attribution and cause you might feel is what's going on. Regardless of all that, clearly something is happening. It's happening to us collectively, and that can show us, I believe, a possible positive way forward, just so that whatever we might be facing, if we evolve together, humanity as a whole, and if we're able to start recognizing that things that seemed insoluble before might be reparable, fixable, simply by consciousness, well, that's pretty powerful. It gives us the feeling that that placebo effect that we know individually, like an individual reality shift, like a personal Mandela effect, the placebo might have a global sort of a improvement potential for all of the world, not just humanity, but all sentience, all beings, all life, all of nature. And that is exciting to me. So that's why I'm excited to be part of the International Mandela Effect Conference when we talk about things like the golden timeline, which you might have heard Christopher Anatra mention in his Quantum Businessman channel. And we also talk about and touch on something near and dear to my heart, an alternative to transhumanism, which I'm calling Rev Humanism just to give it a name. But frankly, I believe it's what was being drawn and described as, you could think of it as a golden timeline on the Hopi prophecy rock, written in stone, guiding us to go forward through a time of possible future cataclysm, when extinct species would become alive again, when people might lose their way, try to literally move into the cloud. It actually shows this on the rock. And here we are talking about uploading our consciousness to the cloud and becoming transhuman. What if there's a better way? And that's what I believe there is. I believe it's written on that Hopi prophecy rock to be reverent, to be respectful of all of our relations, future relations, past relations, our ancestors, all of the animals and the plants. So it's extremely important to me. And I see that this Mandela effect gives us the potential to start looking at ourselves and the world very differently, in a very positive way. I did ask on social media, what does this mean to you? And some of the answers that I got were just wonderful, so I've written them down. I'm going to read some of them off. And one person said, it means that we create our realities. We can see and know beyond what we're being told is truth. Life is what you make it. And that's what I mean too when I say consciousness can change the physical world. What I've been writing about, I totally love that answer. Here's another one. I'm asking again, what does the Mandela effect mean to you? The answer is, it means I shifted my reality. And Mandela effect episodes are an artifact of the ones I left. It's evidence to me that my intentions to level up were successful. Level up, that's an idea of accessing more of your infinite, eternal consciousness, that state of being where you feel sovereignty of your being. So even though you might not be able to control individual circumstances, you definitely have a sense that you are much bigger than your physical body, much bigger, that you might have existed before you existed in a physical body. I know I certainly felt that way. Okay, here's another answer. What does the Mandela effect mean to you? It means I personally just find it to be something fun and exciting in my life. I know the deeper meanings. However, I get a kick out of seeing a supposedly solid reality changing in front of my eyes. Yeah, that is cool. Once you get used to the shock initially, it can be shocking at first. Once you get used to it, then for me personally, I was just watching the Pitch Perfect movies. I thought I hadn't seen the third one. So I was watching the second one, thinking it was one I'd seen before, but I thought I must have put the wrong disc in the DVD player because I'd never seen it before. It was Pitch Perfect 2, but instead of being a movie I'd seen, which was the sequel I remember vaguely having seen, that was a sequel to Pitch Perfect 1, now it's completely different. And I had not seen either 2 or 3, whereas previously I had seen 2 movies. Now apparently I'd only seen 1. I know I've seen 2. What does that mean? Are there 4 Pitch Perfect movies? Possibly. That's just the wild, wonderful world of the Mandela Effect for all of us who experience it. Okay, here's another one. The Mandela Effect shows me how I and we are progressing and expanding into different timelines and alternate parallel realities. It makes me way too excited every time I notice something because I feel it's a sign I am doing something good and moving in a positive direction. I think that's true for me too, especially when I notice things showing up that are that I consider positive, that are for a Mandela Effect. We talk about that golden timeline on the International Mandela Effect Conference Open Tables shows that we're doing every month. So if we see a golden animal, if we see a white animal that's not an albino and it has blue eyes, it reminds us of the ancient story and the expectation of the white buffalo calf returned, that it will be coming back. And of course the white buffalo calf has. Now lots of other white animals are as well. Okay, here's another one. Another answer to the question, what does the Mandela Effect mean to you? I generally think that the universe, all that is, etc., is trying to get my attention. Yes, awesome. So when you start recognizing every day you're in relationship with the cosmos, with the holographic multiverse, with your high self, with some idea of ultimate good, and you're asking how good can it get, how good can I get, starting every day that way, it's a level up feeling every day, for sure. No matter how the day may have started, I can guarantee you can pull things upward. Another wonderful response is it means learning how to survive in almost a new environment. At first it was like I propelled into a different dimension, but as time goes by, I am adapting to it. Love that one. I think we can all relate. For me, it feels like just getting used to the fact, like, okay, now the movie I saw seems to be gone. I only vaguely remember it. I know I liked it. That's okay. We've got now there are 3 movies. That's good enough for me. Okay, the next one. It means we can shift this reality into a more loveful and aware state when the collective will truly wishes for it. It gives me hope. Yes, I love that. It gives me hope too. I feel that with all of us, or not even all of us, but just a tipping point number of us, we don't have to have all of us able to be conscious of the Mandela Effect. Usually it feels like when you hit about 10%, everything can start tipping, and that's good. Here's another one. For me, so-called reality exists, but not the way we think it exists. It is plastic, moldable. There is no concrete, solid objective we can point to and say, this is the only thing that is real. That is a mental, socialized construct that we all want to agree on so we can feel comfort. Right. And I think most of you know that follow my blog, follow my newsletter, follow this YouTube channel, you know I've been covering some of the scientific experiments that are showing exactly what I pointed out in a paper I co-authored with physicist George Weissman, one of the hippies who saved physics. We wrote about that there might not be any objective reality. And that's indeed what's happening in some of the scientific experiments as well. And for that you can look up the work of the publications. I think it was in 2019, or maybe that was when the work was conducted, but Kozlov Bruckner at University of Vienna, Austria, it was working in collaboration with some other researchers in Edinburgh, Scotland. Anyway, the next one that comes up is my opinions keep fluctuating as I keep trying to make sense of it. It means different things as I grow through them. Yeah, it does. The Mandela Effect definitely is like a mirror to ourselves. It definitely, for me, gives me feedback into how accepting I am and neutral I'm feeling, from that neutral accepting place without feeling fight or flight, no drama. That's where I notice most of these miraculous kinds of reality shifts and Mandela effects can happen that are very positive. Another one, very short, says we are coming together as timelines merge and solidify. And then a similar one, someone else said, merging and aligning with the highest golden timeline. So here's the idea again, that even if we've been a little bit off on a sideline, a side path, we can get onto a very positive track that some of us are wishing for all of us. Some of us are wishing how good can it get for all of us. for everyone concerned. And it's working, it's happening. Okay, here's another one. This one's a bit longer. I think it's a natural part of our evolution into higher dimensions. The effect will become more frequent and speed up to where our thoughts can manifest instantly, and our lives are a symphony of synchronicity. It will be accepted as our everyday reality that the past, present, and future shift instantly. I had a glimpse once of what it will feel like as this speeds up. And from my current perspective, it's dizzying, like stepping into the flow of a fast-moving stream and letting go. Wow, love the visual feeling there of that fast-moving stream. And you know, I love a saying about life is like a river, but it's never the same twice. So you can step into the supposedly the same river, but your experience that second time will not be the same as the first. And I think that's what we also experience with this amazing capability, that when we've got that energy lined up, I'm indicating my head is lined up with my heart, is lined up with my gut. What I think is what I need, it's what I love, it happens. And I do experience that. It is just like being guided by my high self through a waking day. A waking dream is what it feels like, where things that I've just had on the periphery of my hopes and thoughts comes through. Okay, another one says, I see them as breadcrumbs, letting us know that we are moving in the right direction. The first ones, I think, bring us to a personal dark night of the soul, so to speak, and generally force us to work through some things on our own, mainly because it takes some personal work to realize that we aren't crazy and that it is real. It then allows people to decide what road they want to take. Do we believe that it is a confabulation, as the powers that be want you to believe, or do we realize that we create our own reality? And we can decide, as Cynthia Sue Larson likes to ask, how good can it get? I've had a lot of fun with asking kids about if they could create any animal, what would it look like? And the results are pretty amazing. We've shifted to realities where some of them actually exist, and we couldn't find proof of them when I had asked them. So it can be super exciting. Boy, that brings up something amazing. I know if you watch Once Upon a Timeline, that's Eva Nye's channel on YouTube, she often talks about these animals, and it's amazing how they'll talk about something not being there, and then sure enough, it shows up in reality. And if you don't know about that, but you might have seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite, you might remember an imaginary animal that I looked up after watching that movie, and it was the liger, a combination lion and tiger. Now, this year, I've definitely seen a photograph of an existing liger. They do exist, but I remember when I first watched that movie, I looked it up, and I found that that was purely imaginary. So that's one I've confirmed for myself. I know if people are doubters and they're skeptics, they might say that liger has always been there. That's the nature of the Mandela Effect. Finding physical evidence is difficult. The best we can usually do is something called reality residue. So for people who say that liger was always real for me, or Nelson Mandela never died in prison for me, that's fine. That does happen. And we do experience subjective, not objective, but subjective realities, like lots of timelines coming together and coming apart, coming together again. Okay, and then, yeah, I think I've covered the ones that I got that were quotes, so those are all of them, and I talked about pretty much everything I wanted to discuss. This is a long video, thanks for your patience. There's one more thing I want to mention, and that has to do with the idea of original thinking, because I've been thinking a lot about this idea of just the way that all ideas, no matter how novel, can come from an original source. Sometimes humans think we're the creators of everything. I think more to the point is that we are channels of everything, so we can artistically channel information that we receive. I think that's more fair and more accurate from my own experience and the experience of some of the greatest artists that I've heard from. They say similar things. So what that implies is that nature herself has this original thinking that's already there. All of the marvelous novelties, newness, new concepts and ideas are there. They're there already. And an excellent book on this topic, if you're wondering, what does that mean? How would that feel? This came up in some of the language of spirit dialogues that I attended that were first started by the physicist David Bohm and by Indigenous elder and wisdom keeper Leroy Littlebear, and also Leroy Secatero was involved. The author of the book Original Thinking is another attendee and longtime wisdom keeper as well. That's Glenn Aparicio Perry, and his book is Original Thinking, so you can get an idea of what were those conferences like and what does that mean. And basically, when I look at all these ideas, just wrapping it back up again, this idea of the Hopi prophecy rock, the fact that it even shows basically that golden timeline as being the one where we keep our hearts open to one another, to our plant and animal cousins, to all of our relations. That means all of them. So it's a lot more inclusive than humans often tend to think in terms of going forward and back in time. It's our ancestors, it's future generations, all of this, all of us, really wishing for the best for all of us. That's that another way to look at that golden timeline. I sometimes talk about Rev humanism as an alternative to transhumanism. Let's become reverent. Let's live through that gratitude, live through keeping our hearts open, live through this sense of respect that we can all embody in our daily lives, asking each day, how good can it get? How good can I get? How best can I be in service to ultimate goodness, to love, to all of my highest ideals? This is how we do it. And just checking to see if there's anything else. Yes, there's some other ideas too. So, and from the realm of philosophy, there's some things called idealism and optimalism. If you watched all my videos, then you've probably heard me talk at time to time about a very wonderful philosopher, Nicholas Rescher, who wrote a book, Axiogenesis. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the first one that really showed that thought itself and consciousness itself can create everything. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. I know that current scientists are arm wrestling over that honor, but I think we really owe Nicholas Rescher a debt of gratitude for the work he's done, as well as all of the process philosophers before him, including one of my personal favorites as well, which is Leibniz, who talked about consciousness itself and how you can look at consciousness as being a second order observation of an original perception. And again, I think Leibniz wins some kind of recognition and honor for maybe not solving the hard problem of consciousness, but showing the subjectivity of it and the layers required in order to actually have consciousness, other than just a base level perception that we might say a machine could get, and that machine might not necessarily be conscious. Perhaps so. But as soon as any organism has a second order observation of that first order perception, then there we go. That's something looking like consciousness to me. And Leibniz said that first, or wrote that first. And he was also one of the originators of calculus. I don't think that's any accident, because it's a very similar concept, integrating and working through integrals and that kind of thing. So this has been a very fascinating conversation for me. I hope it has been thought-provoking for you. I want to personally thank everyone who contributed answers to this question. If I didn't include yours and you want to make sure it is part of this discussion, please add it in the comments. And if I did, you can say hi too. And thank you for being part of this conversation, which I believe is just getting started right now, as finally we are starting to see that everywhere in the world the Mandela Effect is being noticed, and it's only going to get stronger, more apparent to more and more people. So thank you for joining me in asking my favorite question, how good can it get? Until next time, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com. Thanks.